I'd also talk about where we're looking to go, like anything.
Hello, everyone. We are live.
Oh, we are. Hello.
We are live. No, you come here. Oh, I set the whole thing up. So this is our special review that we've been saying is coming for a long time now. It's a little bit more informal than our regular gameplay. We're going to kind of be talking about Icosacast, our podcast that comes out every week. We're going to be talking about Inroads Productions and the other stuff that we're doing. We're going to be maybe working through some stuff, figuring out how to maybe get a straight-on shot of us.
The inside scoop.
Inside scoop. I'm also going to mute this, but then go make sure I'm on Twitch. Because this would be a great time if people feel like chatting. People want to gab. Want to give feedback, advice, rude or helpful. You know, it is the internet.
Should tweet this out.
Tweet it out. I'll tweet out that we're doing
or Facebook
special review.
So you guys are really part of the process.
Yeah.
You really feel
yeah.
That? I love that. Hey, I'm all about that.
Well, and we want it to be actually special in terms of, this is going to be something that happens, but not every single week.
Yeah. Yeah. This is like the special on the menu. Going bad utterly soon, so we must eat quickly.
That's right.
There's going to be a lot of making fun of Baron on this as well.
That's perfect.
Man,
what's new?
Y'all make fun of Baron a lot.
What's the difference?
I feel bad for this imaginary character and the player.
It hurts me, Tony, deeply.
Well, that's because so the problem is that Tony here likes to create his characters modeled after himself. And that's the issue.
So what?
Oh, that's what we gotta get into. We gotta get an insight into the creation of Baron.
Yeah,
sure.
And character development in general,
That's
right?
a good idea, yes.
We want to talk about that too.
Yes.
For anybody who hasn't or wants to create a character or wants to improve a character, work on a character, we definitely want to talk about that.
Because I'm awful at it, so this could help people who are also awful at creating characters.
The light on Tony's side of the table is pretty dark.
I know, it's because the light is on outside because of the sun. The sun is on.
I don't want people
I can't
to
be
see.
online on there, but I'm going to log into Twitch on my phone because we're streaming through this. It's not working. It's not working.
I think we should talk about the show. What's happened so far.
A lot.
Yeah, I know.
Are we 11 episodes in now?
Yeah. But maybe
fast.
more specifics, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily need to be.
No, nothing super specific, although I'll say from my point of view, although Matt is making my anime transition to a superhero very difficult.
You know what I'd like to talk about as you say that? It's interesting because I feel like the relationship between player and DM is so different between different people. I feel like you and Eric run a lot of stuff by Matt, and I don't ever talk to Matt about anything.
I've never spoken. My name is...
Hi, yes.
Okay,
yeah, but I've never discussed body with him at all.
Well, see, here's why though.
Other than
a little bit right before we started
during our
campaign.
creation.
We had a character creation.
But see, here's the thing. You had a defined, set way that you wanted body to be, where I had almost nothing.
Right. So you didn't have anything outlined or prepared, and you came up with something still.
Well, you want to be a rogue.
That I think works.
I did originally want to be a rogue until Kayla decided to steal it from me, and me being a gentleman gave it up. So yes, my original character was a rogue, and I had that all set and changed
She's
it.
a better rogue than you would be, so it's fine.
But I did change it.
Well, she doesn't steal from us, which is nice because he would have.
Oh, I would have stole. My plan. So my original.
You did it
plan,
as a wizard last campaign. Never mind.
that's
True. My original idea was going to be a rogue who stole from the group and created conflict between everybody all the time.
And now he's doing that as a monk.
And now I am not.
So somehow.
But
That's not true.
the entire setup for this campaign is
Right.
literally conflict within the party. Though,
Correct.
Right?
Yeah,
Like that
correct.
was.
But I didn't know that at the time when I made the rogue, and now that I know.
Well, this party was originally two separate parties in our session 0.
Right. Yeah, we had session zeros that were not streamed that happened, so people can get to kind of give us a setup for the campaign, so people can get used to their characters and this world. Or we did a campaign in this world, but this is a new part of it that the players don't know anything about.
Those went really well. By the
And
way.
us as players still don't know anything about the other sessions that we were not a part of.
Correct.
Which is great. And
But very difficult,
if you haven't seen the new episode without spoiling anything, you can kind of see some of that come out this week.
Oh, 100%.
So
Although, the only thing is, I have a terrible memory, so us doing it, I don't know.
There were several
months ago.
sessions where you literally just did. You
Can
had to
I-
ask me.
Can I tell you?
Because I
experience?
forgot.
I love.
I
that.
forgot.
love it.
I have an
love
experience
it.
there I'd like to share with everyone in the audience. I don't believe she was actually at session 0. I think it was just Joe and Eric and Matt, and that's been a fucking a super secret conspiracy theory this whole time.
T was there.
It's a false
I
session.
was there, however.
Bjorn was there, but T wasn't.
Alright.
That's the thing.
I played both characters actually. Role played them both.
I do think I
It was
left
totally
early.
different. My concept of Baron and T's concept.
I left early, okay? Things, it is what it is, but it's been a difficult ride, but everything is getting much better. The story, the stream quality, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, the recordings have been better.
for sure.
Bjorn, how do you T? How do you feel about Bjorn being your fifth character?
Fourth.
No,
Fourth character.
Incorrect.
Fifth character in Dungeons and Dragons. Period. Or
Wait. Who is?
So I had.
I don't remember him from your campaign that you were in. What was his?
it
I want to see
five?
if T can remember.
I can't
Was it
remember.
5?
The super harmonious T can remember all 5 was Gary.
Oh god, this is terrible because I have a terrible memory.
Play a cleric, Baldor. He was awesome, dwarf cleric.
No, I don't remember
I
the
miss-
5.
I miss him.
I remember 4 of them.
What do you remember?
I remember Lucius from last campaign, obviously.
Lucius.
Easiest one to remember.
Yeah.
Besides Baron.
Lucius Devereaux.
That's a good name.
The 5th cast member of Golden Girls. Then before that, I was a cleric?
Nope.
No, what was I?
You were druid.
No, I was a druid, and before that was my ranger, which I hated.
Played a ranger.
I
No,
did
yeah,
for like
ranger.
3 seconds.
No, you were a fighter. Dostra was a fighter.
Yes, that's
Wow,
right. Holy
that's
shit.
We're really
Oh
going
my
back
God.
here in time.
But yeah, I mean,
Wow, that was
I'm hoping
Steve, what was your favorite character?
Lucius was the best, hands down.
Wait,
before
Josh says he
the-
misses knock.
I do too. That's Matt's fault for killing Nog. Okay.
Hey, so
I don't think
spoiler.
Matt could say any more times. Knock is on the ground, bleeding to death.
Yeah.
What do the rest of you do?
Wait,
go to Knock.
wait.
Okay.
My
well,
question is
yeah.
before Dostro, who was his character? Is that it? Is that the
Oh
original?
my god, you just remember his first character?
But
Michael Darkhammer.
That's right! Oh my god! That's
Great storyline.
What an embarrassment.
that was
See, and this is proof that your character creations are
Awful.
So okay, let's run that to go into character creation in general, and maybe.
I will say though that obviously we know through some dream visions from an angel that Knock may not be entirely gone from the world, even
That's
though
true.
at this point it might be better if he was. We don't know.
Well, we know, yeah, something about
Something about his soul or something.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, but so character creation in general, is that what we want to talk about?
Well, I feel like you're
Yeah.
segueing into that as far as
Yeah.
what the.
yeah. I mean, I'd like to talk about it because I actually, since Josh is listening now, my current character is loosely based off of a conversation I had with Josh.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Some insight to that was
Josh is the invisible cast member, I
yeah,
think, right?
he told me a story that was pretty fucking badass, and I'd love to actually get him on to tell it one day. but of one of his characters, and I was like, shit,
Well, we will be having him sometime in December, right? First week, second week.
I don't know, if Mick's
Surprise cast
Also,
member.
he
As
may
one
have
of,
to-
one of ours is going.
Now I've ruined the surprise.
Was that a surprise?
I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
I
Was it
would have been
surprise?
excited to see Josh walk in here and play.
Oh, I thought we
I
had.
thought everybody knew.
I thought we talked about it in front of everyone.
I thought we did.
I think we said it before we played. You might have not been here yet, so
We
that
talked
might have
about
been
it- talked
just
about it
a
at
you
the
surprise.
Who's not gonna be here?
Party, huh?
Who's not going to be here?
Mick.
Mick.
Mick has a
Oh.
work
He's-
trip,
He's substitute.
Oh, and he
and Josh is gonna.
Josh
be
doesn't know this, but he's probably gonna have to substitute for me as well.
Well, now he
Yeah,
knows.
no, he knows that.
Be,
I know that's
be
the
ready.
point. That's the point.
Our sixth cast member is here too. I don't know how many, but our second extra, Miss Jen.
What?
Hey, Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Okay.
How are you?
Hi, good to see
I'm
you.
not.
Off camera.
I'm playing nothing.
We're talking about character creation. If you want to come, we can help you make your first Dungeons and Dragons character that you can use to play.
That's nice.
If you want it, I'm just gonna leave
How
that
come you don't
invitation.
comment today in my comments? I'm commenting.
Because you told everyone that everything is my fault.
Yep.
That you have to blame the DM for everything. So no, I'm not.
I
That's
said something else.
okay. I wonder if Nock and Nana Babu are in the same place.
I almost went to
Well,
Sepcial Bakery.
I don't. Maybe, but from where I stand, I don't think so.
Nock being one of the so let's just in case some people are like jumping in, they've haven't watched it all. Nock being Mick's first character that sadly, spoiler alert, he's just dead.
Great.
Episode
Great fucking
2?
Yeah.
Great
Episode
character.
2.
But Mick's second dead character.
Correct.
Mick's second dead character
He dies as well.
role.
Spoilers from the first campaign, which was not recorded.
Yeah.
As if they could go back and listen to all of it.
And Nana Babu is
Episode 56 when in the dark.
Mike's character, body, it has like spirit ancestors, is this ancestral guardian, barbarian, and Nana Babu is one of the ancestors, the one that died, and maybe possibly some cast members admitted to killing, and I don't know, there's a lot going on there too. But
I had a plan.
it was a good plan.
I had a
So
plan.
the question was, are they in the same place? Well, you had discussed it kind of in this last episode a little bit, talking about Sylvaticus and that they potentially are in the same place.
But she's
Same place, but different areas.
or they're
Correct.
well, I would say they're not where they should be.
Correct.
So,
Well,
But we don't know
tough to
that.
say.
I think you
At
you
least
had
on
a
Nock.
you had a talk that grandfather is in Sylvaticus, right?
Right.
And that he said Nana Babu's not there with him.
Right.
Although supposedly the heaven, one of the heavens of this world, Sylvaticus, could potentially be pretty large, and she, so he might just not know. But from
But
his understanding,
But the manifestation of her was different than
it was
manifestation.
quite different. Yeah,
And it seems as if
quite different. She still looked old.
we could maybe
Frail.
Again, we don't know our characters don't know about what happened to Nog after he died.
Mhm.
But as players, we can maybe assume that something is causing people to not end up where they should be
Right.
in the afterlife.
It
Maybe.
certainly seemed to happen to. Well, something intervened in Nock in his not death scene, but his spirit passing scene, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I mean the afterlife is obviously a very big deal to my character. Like that as it matters,
Yeah, matters to Mick as a player too, because he's the only ones that have passed into it, and we have a very specific way of passing into the afterlife. And you guys just don't die enough to really get more info. If you guys want to die more, you'll get way more.
I tried.
Yeah, the more you die, the more
So
info
you
you
were
get.
real
I tried.
close, my friend.
Again, spoilers, but yeah.
Yeah, a little Deus Ex Machina.
I'll make sure this gets categorized after the episode so that people can't see it.
There you go.
If you haven't, I think it was our best episode yet. I mean, it was
Episode 11,
Yeah,
I think
just
was the best.
a lot
Wasn't
of,
my doing.
lot of stuff.
agree.
A lot of
It
It had to happen. Honestly, I'll tell you though, I did have the plan 2 episodes before to have something similar to episode 11 happen. So I was
Okay.
going to say something.
Yeah, I didn't.
So
think,
set. This was a plan. Was this a Tony plan or was this a Baron plan?
Well,
This was actually a Baron plan, actually. That I wanted the character. Hello, cat.
Bingo.
Bingo, cat. Damn it. Get out of here, little guy. I had a plan to have Baron just start losing it.
These camera angles, it's like.
Well, how have you felt that's played out? Like, how do you feel Baron has played out? Is he what you wanted him to be? Is he what?
He is getting there slowly.
Well, this is an important part of character.
That's what I'm saying.
It is because
Yeah.
because I'm bad at this. I actually talked to Josh and Nick about this a little bit, but because I'm bad at storytelling, I wanted to somehow express Baron as a troubled character that was, because he's lost now and he's always had somebody to guide him through life, and now that he's alone, technically. Well, not technically, but he's
Yeah,
alone.
I mean, I think that's
Quite
you know-
quite literally, he lost his guy. Like this guy
Yeah.
went to go take a piss and then never came
he's-
back, and you don't know
so
where
now
he
he's
went.
dealing with that and doing things he normally
Just
wouldn't
like
do.
my dad.
I still don't understand what happened to this guy, but whatever, it's fine.
But I think that's kind of where I was going with it, and hopefully people can get the sense.
I think Baron's a very well realized character, so I don't. It's just funny that it ended up. I think you play him very consistently. And I think he's
Sure.
that's who he is as a person. Pretty clearly.
K Santillo 819 wants to know what do you guys think of the red ruby?
Who is that?
That's Kayla. She's over there on the
Oh.
couch and doesn't want to come over here and be on camera, but she wants to have her input.
I
You
see.
said she didn't.
That's
we
true.
could just
As-
ignore
having
her.
input.
As
Okay.
players, we can say this. Our characters would have obviously no clue, but
Mhm.
Michael and I think it's quite obviously Arrestro from Campaign 1.
Yeah, so the last campaign we played, there was an NPC, Arrestro, who lived in a red ruby, which was a magic jar, from the spell Magic Jar. A powerful wizard locked in a magic jar. Spoilers for Critical Role. Fuck you very much, Matt Mercer, because this shit happened a long time ago.
It is true.
It is true. No, it's a really cool use. A wizard that was trying to become immortal locks himself in a magic jar, which is, I mean, right? That's kind of what that spell is for. That's kind of it's fairly specific written.
But I think as players, you also there's a very specific legacy tied to that character.
Yeah,
And
and
it is tied into-
why don't you talk a little bit about what that is?
Well, I don't know. Again, it's not your world, Matt, but there is
our world.
one less. Well, yeah, there's one less school of magic
correct.
than in most worlds.
Yeah, there is no
Necromancer.
understood school of necromancy in this world, but certainly Arrestro, who this wizard seemed to practice it, but also to be spreading it to other wizards, which we found when you guys fought.
That's right, I remember.
Yeah.
So would you say he's creating it?
You don't know. That might come out in the future, but like
Okay.
exactly what that is, it's hard to say if he learned it. Maybe it was spread to him, much the way it was spread to Winston Morricone.
Oh my god, how does this fucking make?
Winston Morricone, the pirate wizard,
Yeah.
who
Killed Claudio.
killed
And then
Claudio.
resurrected.
He was a good villain.
One of our
He was a good
players.
villain.
Winston
I
Morricone.
might have known very briefly, but he was good.
Yeah, you only
Shout out to
saw
Chris, if you're watching. Ever. Hello.
If you ever listen, please bring Claudio back.
Yeah, Winston
Rest in
Morricone
peace.
was a cool
As a special
pirate
guest,
villain.
special guest character.
Yeah, and we want to bring, I mean, the story, so something that interests me a lot, if you can't tell from me trying and failing to hold back, like, lore dumps, is I love the world building part of this, right? That's why I like being the DM. It's like why I like doing a lot of this work. And I think it's interesting and also gets a lot of player buy-in too, when you guys like want to learn this stuff. But I'd love to get some alternative stories, whether they're short stories in writing, which some of that might be coming out pretty soon. We've talked about possibly some sort of comic series for some of these short stories, possibly some adventure modules that tie into some of the things that we've done, or at least some of the locations. So yeah, but I mean, a lot happened in like the 2 years we were playing that first campaign weekly. A lot of a lot of sessions,
Yeah.
and
80 plus. I mean,
yeah, and a lot happened, and like
We still have some audio from that campaign if we ever want
we
to
have
release
some
that.
audio from the very end of that campaign. We do.
One day we'll.
Rest in peace, Claudio. Thank you.
And
One day.
oh no, Aaron didn't die.
Thank you, Twitch first.
Aaron never died.
Enrin,
he was still in the world somewhere.
you
Well, he said-
literally left him at his mom's house.
Yeah. And, well, we kind of investigated and something was going on with that, too.
Yeah.
But we didn't quite
Yeah,
get
we
to
still
it.
got some
Well, let's
open.
not go deep
some
too
open
deep into
stuff.
campaign one because
Yeah.
that's people are gonna have a hard time getting into that. Do you want to talk about your character?
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
what
so I was torn because I
Yeah, you
love-
said this. You said this.
Character creation is one of my favorite parts of the game, and I've never really DM'd before, but you know, I love characters, and especially books and stuff like that. So I think people get attached to characters, and you know, even just watching other people play D&D or listening to it, I think that's a big pull when you like a character. So for me, I was torn. Really, I had another character prepared. I don't want to spoil it, just in case I ever have to use it.
Sure.
But I ended up going with Zephaim because I felt like he was also in a similar way to Baron lost, but I don't want to give up too much because this,
We haven't got too deep into.
we really haven't. Zephaim's backstory is still really dark and covered and clouded in mystery, so I don't want to go into it too much. But I do want to say that you know he's conflicted, and he has a lot there that hasn't been unearthed yet. So
I really enjoy the Zephaim Inda relationship. It's one of my favorite relationships in the show.
yeah, I think you know.
Seeing you and Eric go back and forth.
Yeah, Eric and I in campaign 1 we had very little interaction, and my character didn't really like his.
Well, Eric didn't really play until.
Yeah, he's true. He
but
jumped on late, so
Yeah.
He was the final character to be like.
But I think that you know my character would lend Zephaim would lend himself to another tiefling rather than others, and I think that it works.
well, it's interesting too because it's as opposed to the last campaign, which was a human-centric portion of this world. This is a strangely enough tiefling-centric portion of the world, which is in itself a weird thing for I think D&D, right? Because the point of tieflings is that they're outcasts by definition, according to the player's handbook. So to put them in a place where it's tiefling majority, that tiefling governmental organizations, that there seem to be some sort of connections to things that tieflings innately in some ways know about, but you're the only two tieflings in the party too.
Right.
Everyone else is kind of a modge podge of different outcasts.
Yeah, and Badi, who is a homebrew,
Yeah.
I think we can talk a little about
Yeah.
that.
Yes. Yep. Well, there was a very iconic NPC from the first game that was a kind of entryway into the precarity culture from our party's perspective, and his name was Wayaki, played excellently by Matt. Very, very memorable character, and
Our favorite NPC by far.
yeah, I think we can safely say that.
Hard to recreate that.
I think that was my interest, is like, how can I do that same race but do something
Very different.
very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of my interest is playing a older character as opposed to somebody who's young and going out in the world, somebody who's seen a lot and is really preparing for the end of life. And that's, I think, that the big thing too is, like, not explaining this last episode, but my idea of, at least in this sense of calling on the spirits of the dead, is that I'm close to that.
Yeah.
Like, there's gonna come a time when I'm, like, Buddy is, like, ready for death. And I think that's a big part of it, is it's not, well, maybe not ready for death, but, like,
Preparing.
accepted that it's gonna, again, Oxmen, the life, like, she's 56, but the average lifespan is much lower for, it's not, it's in the,
Human range.
it's less than the human range.
Yeah,
It
it's a
maxes
little-
out around 70, I think. It's
Yeah.
like old. Except for
Which,
Annabelle.
depending on how medieval your D&D campaign is, might be about what a human
Right.
Might be a little old for a human lifespan.
Right.
Well, I'm saying that end of
But-
natural life.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah, like
yeah, and-
disease and all that stuff. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of wanted to play that out and see what that was like. And I also wanted to get into the idea of what does it mean to rage, and is that always a conscious choice, or is that something that just happens? And I wanted to play that, like, when I am role playing and the character gets angry, sometimes I'll just say I rage again, because I have now entered. It's not a cerebral choice as much as a visceral reaction to something.
Right.
And what toll does that take on the body? Like, in my head, I'm thinking, like,
On the body.
well, yes, maybe for many reasons.
What's
Maybe-
toll on the body?
Yes, and that, how many rages does she have left? Like, that's a big thing with me. Is like, how many rages does she
Well,
have?
I think that lends itself to the whole discussion of ready to die thing too. It's like,
Yeah. I mean,
she's expending her energy and her
Well,
feelings, and she rages, and then
Which, when you do it, you can feel it.
right.
That's what I love, because
even at the table, it's great.
at the table, you can feel when Michael, really embodies the character and really makes you feel everything, every emotion. It's amazing.
And that's I think what's best about D&D.
Was the
too,
engine noise coming through? Listen to the audio and see what it sounds like from over there.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't-
sure.
Oh yeah, it sounds like a high pitched and then
It's weird.
I can hear it over there though.
No, it's probably a connection thing somewhere that's loose. You guys keep going. I'm gonna just mess around with some wires. Thank you for letting us know.
I was saying, I think that for me, that's what's best about D&D. It's like, the character development's happening simultaneously as a group. We're all adapting as players, but also as the character too.
Right. Yeah.
Each situation, and you don't know. A lot of times, you don't know how you're going to react until you're in that moment. Like I didn't know I was, Zephine was going to make this deal with the devil. Like I didn't know what was going to happen there. I had no idea. So I think that's a lot of the best part is that improv and the character becoming who maybe you're realizing that character's image in your head.
Yeah, how you want them to feel.
Right.
It's like when this last episode, I want to try and kill.
Still make that sound.
I guess
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't
I'm on the
matter.
place,
People would see this
yeah.
afterward, but like kill the body. But the character, Bjorn would not have done that. So that's something like I really wanted to try and stay focused on. Keeping that
You can stop.
vision.
Right, and I obviously didn't want to kill Baron, but
So you had to. You had. I mean, that's the way. I mean,
way.
otherwise it
now.
wouldn't have made sense.
Don't worry, guys. If you haven't seen the episode, it's really not doing anything.
No, the whole episode, how it
Hey,
happens and
Something.
everything.
You have to watch it. You have to watch it.
The ending of the episode and how it ended was
Yeah, it was awesome.
beautifully laid out.
It was awesome. Really great episode.
Visually, I'm not very good at seeing things unless it's in front of me, but was beautifully laid out by Michael and Matt, how they were doing everything.
Well, it wasn't even. I mean, I think that it was you and Eric that really initiated that whole thing. I wasn't expecting that to happen until way later.
No, I'm saying how. I'm talking about the ending of the actual episode
oh.
itself and how it
Yeah.
concluded. But you're right. I wanted it to happen for Baron's character. It had to happen. It had to happen soon.
Well,
Yeah.
Baron,
So-
Baron needed to. I think Baron's starting to feel a part of this group, even though maybe he doesn't know how to. Or,
Correct.
even
Even though honestly,
or doesn't necessarily want to at times. I think he's starting to feel some sort of attachment.
Well, prior to this,
And he doesn't want to feel like he has this giant weight on his shoulders with this information.
correct. And
So
I wanted again being lost and doing things he wouldn't normally do, like get drunk or when his personality would change. Those things are very out of character for him, but because he is lost, I wanted to try and push that a bit. So
Well,
That was the idea.
Well, yeah, and I think that came through, and I think that previously we'd had our characters had a good relationship. Like everybody had a rapport. And one of the things I wanted to do was the idea of that fight. Again, spoilers, but this fight with the orcs or the Goranun, when you had engaged and I had also fought but didn't rage. Because as a character I felt like that was going to be something that had to be a choice at some point. It was how in control am I? I've done these things in the past early on where these costs has happened within a civilized society or town or city, and this is happening. And then where does that rage and anger go if it's not let out? And then it resulted in Buddy basically taking it out on Baron.
Yeah, and I love that whole part of it, and I won't go into it too much because again, I think that's part of the whole ending of the episode.
Right.
That really
Well, even before the beginning of the episode, when Buddy was going after that whole thing went down, without that cathartic release of this is where it just becomes like abuse at that point. It's like abusive.
And I think that, shout out to Eric who couldn't be here today, but Inda, in that episode.
Well, I think this isn't chatting.
I think. Oh, maybe.
Right? Isn't that him?
I don't know.
Dark Ryu? Or...
No, that's Mick.
Mick.
Oh, that's
So,
Mick.
so
Couldn't be here, Mick, but you can be on the chat though.
To
Eric.
be fair, I'm on the chat in the other room.
Well,
Eric is doing a great
we'll
job.
have another
I think,
conversation about that
playing
later.
Inda.
Yes.
I think that Inda's true
The
self kind of
aloofness.
right.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that really shone through in the last episode.
Yeah.
Where obviously he's totally counter to Baron. And maybe similar in his isolation possibly, but I'm not going to speak on behalf of his backstory because I really don't know. But still.
Yeah, he's being real cryptic about
Yeah,
it.
still finding a way to be very aloof, like you said, and kind of not care. Like Baron cares a lot. You could tell it shows. Whereas Inda,
He's a Care Bear.
Inda just doesn't, really care at all. It seems like.
Yeah,
so.
it's almost hard to see why the character is following. I mean, I think the whole group is held together rather loosely still at this
Yes,
part.
absolutely.
And there are some strong connections. I think that Bree is very connected to Badi, and I think we see that. I think Bairn is connected to people, but doesn't really know why.
Definitely doesn't.
I think he needs connections, and these are the people that, since his main connection isn't there, right, the person he's been traveling with, his mentor, he finds these people. Tanaki is like,
No idea.
my angel told me to go with you to do this. It seems to be the right thing, like divine intervention, kind of. But Tanaki, he's more. This is fun.
We know
this
also
is
nothing.
Total
about-
mystery.
Yeah, absolutely nothing about
Even
that
the
character.
flashback, because everyone got a flashback that was at least one that was rather open to the player's knowledge at least, and his didn't give too much away.
Yeah, it's true. We know almost nothing. But I like that. I like that we're kind of
I think that's a point too I wanted to make about just creating a character in general, and you might be stressing what do I do or how do I make this character, and honestly 99% of it comes out in how you play that character.
Yeah.
Because you can go into it with almost nothing.
Yeah, true. No, it's
and turn it like Lucius. I mean,
Yeah,
Lucius was
it was genius.
very different than how I imagined it when we were creating him. But then in the game itself, you totally.
I think
Turn
that
it
character
into
made
something.
himself. I didn't make him.
Wow.
We did not make
Well, okay,
him.
but that's what I
He
mean.
made
Is he
himself.
became
Yeah.
he became
Yeah.
something totally different.
Exactly.
One
and
thing
organic.
one thing that always comes up when you look up things about character building and that sort of thing is people that like to make those characters that, oh, my person is a dragon slayer or a knight that is all famous and all that, and that's fine, but I really think push you guys to be nobodies,
Basic, yeah.
right?
I like
And then-
that though, because your character, when you make something again, you're a dragon slayer or some famous person, it feels like your character is done.
Yeah.
You know?
So
That's a
any
good point.
adventurer is more, even a level 1, right? You're more than the average person, right?
Of course.
Like a level 1 person is more than a commoner. They just are. But the leveling mechanic also, growing is built into the game, right? Even like Badi, who is like quite old, right, and has been around for a long time and has seen a lot of things, but from level 1 to level 4 now is grown quite a bit. Like there's
you'll see noticeable
just
differences.
in the things that they can do, but then also in playing the character, they grow as a character.
Well, it's funny because that's an interesting point too. If you think about levels as being in the game, and I wish I could role play that, like when Yusuf would get different spells, or you would be aware of, like, I couldn't do this thing 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think about is interesting, especially about Badi and being an older character, is like, I think I was talking to Eric about this. I'm like, it's like at level 1, a barbarian can rage. This rage has been with me forever. It's been with me my whole life, and it's just like other stuff now that I can do and different. But like
being able to use it,
right? But that's and
like,
that like is like initial, and like I've never been able to call dead people before, and
right.
communicate with them. Now this is a new thing. But
And I think part of that whole thing is people get. I was very nervous when I first started to play that I wasn't going to be able to create that type of storyline for my character, like the development that you normally see. Because again, I'm really not good at telling stories. But once you do it and you just let it happen naturally, as long as you have an idea of what the character's supposed to do, it really becomes its own thing.
Well, that's the thing too. I think D&D is collaborative storytelling, right? You don't have to be a great storyteller. If you're a great storyteller, that's awesome. Like, go do a one-man show, or like write a short story, or write a novel, or something like that's what. But you don't have to be some great storyteller to play D&D, because it's playing off of other people, and it's social, and it's interactive,
right.
And it takes time. By definition, can you play D&D in less than a couple hours? Yeah, but it's not the same as a persistent campaign. It's not the same as this week after week. How many hours have you played so far? Like 11 sessions.
3 hours, probably.
3 hours.
Total.
We have
over 30 hours.
We have well over 300 hours played in terms of, Michael's campaign. Your campaign,
between it all, yeah.
Campaign 1 and now this.
But this one alone.
One shots and
but even these, you guys have been playing these characters for 30 plus hours already.
Yeah.
We're still on the same road.
And you're
Literally, just on the same
We're off the road now.
You walked off
That's
the
true.
road for a little
That's
bit, you
true.
went back on the road,
That's
and now
true.
you are off the road.
Well, that's the thing too, and if you're playing, if you're constantly doing one shots, or that's your connection to D&D, is always making it different, which is cool too, I think, in its own right.
It is. Yeah.
I don't
We've
have
done
a
our
ton of
one-on-one.
we've done a few one shots, but I don't have a ton of experience, but I like the continuous story, building the story from the ground up, and creating it together.
And we're lucky enough to be able to do it.
True.
I think a lot of people have trouble
Well,
getting together every week. Or
I don't know. I think
Yes.
we just made it a priority, which makes it so much better, because we had the issue, the same
we
issue
had
as
a
everybody else.
scheduling issue, and
Can't find time or whatever, but
to
we just kinda
have
made
7
it.
people that make
True.
it an important enough to meet every week, I think, is a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I agree. But it's become so much more than just the game.
Yeah.
I think as far as building a character, you don't always know what it's going to be until you come into contact with the other characters. Like, you don't know how you're going to feel about certain things until you...
And that's what, the character creation night was awesome, and that's a great idea for anybody who's
That's
trying
true.
to come up, even if you're using somebody else to brainstorm, or, bounce ideas off of, or, hey, we should have our characters somehow have a connection already before they start. Maybe they're friends or whatever.
So we had a whole night where we just got together and talked about this part of the world, talked about the characters people wanted to play. I pulled everyone one-on-one to talk about like backstory stuff they were interested in. I think we rolled up stats that night. it was just a good time.
Yeah,
I think we did, yeah.
And really set us up.
Some roll better than others.
Some roll better than others, as it's gonna go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Perfect
Yeah,
stat character.
Kayla got like nat 20s on every stat. It's
Ridiculous.
You were there. You're back.
But I don't know. Low rolls are better, right? I love low rolls.
I like a balance.
Yeah, me too.
Really
I
like a
I
balance.
definitely like at least a
Oh,
balance.
wow.
It's frustrating. I think it's funny as a DM, like to always see the low rolls and then be able to react to it. But as a player, it's definitely frustrating.
Oh,
super Yeah.
frustrating.
Like, okay, if there's one bad roll or a couple bad rolls, that's totally fine. But to continuously just get bad rolls and not be able to perform, like, it's frustrating because you would think like, oh well, my character would at least be able to do this possibly in this moment, and then they don't perform in that moment or in that situation, and then you're like, well, that sucks.
I know when I'm a player, even with myself, low rolls can be funny in social situations.
Yeah.
Oh, of
But when
course.
you're in a battle
Yeah, it
and
sucks.
you keep rolling
Super
low,
intense. You know.
Yeah, it makes you feel like ineffectual.
No, but when it's out of
I'm
combat.
trying to persuade you.
Yeah,
That
and that's awesome.
Like,
Those
love
are
it.
great. I agree with you on that. But the combat one.
I think the interesting thing too is, as you know that as a player you rolled low, but as a character you don't know you rolled low.
Right? Oh yeah, absolutely.
True, but it does translate though when your character's like, I could do this like 2 seconds ago. Why can't I do it now? And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, I that's how I see
I
it.
imagine I'm gonna bring in like this is
Yeah.
why maybe
Right.
something happened that interfered
I try
with it,
to.
or like I think it's good about telling.
And then sometimes you get a nat 20 when you're doing a perception check, and this fly really catches your eye, and you're convinced that it's trying to kill you, right? And because you're looking so well, you just notice everything.
I think I've gotten 3 or 4.
Been more than that.
This
Yeah,
game.
you've done a lot
Lots
already.
of lucky.
I've been very lucky.
I've
I
gotten
know, it
two.
is.
I've gotten 2 or 3 already too, which is like more than I think I got in the entirety of campaign 1.
I'd love to get a counter for how many nat 1s, nat 20s, and deaths we have somewhere.
That's a lot.
At some point.
That's a lot.
I know it's a
Icosacast
lot.
stats.
But I'd love to
Something
do
wants
that.
to- Icosa stats.
There were
But-
5 in the last episode.
There's 5?
Thank you, Kayla.
Kayla's
you,
our
Kayla.
Icosa stats.
I would love to know that and put it there. I don't know how it would work or, if people would even care, but I
Well, that's the thing
Oh,
too.
that's
Is
kind of cool.
think it's
now we're not even just playing D&D and building a world and building characters, but now we're trying to do all this other stuff, like learning how to live stream and
Yeah. It's been quite the learning experience.
video editing
Yep.
and
Really branching out here.
Really
audio only and building a website.
Yeah,
and
it's rough.
all the other stuff we're working on.
It's very interesting to see how we're going about moving forward with this passion when we all have full-time jobs.
Yes.
When we're all, pursuing other things but still wanting to do this. It's been very interesting.
lives and families
Yeah,
and
yeah.
full-time jobs.
But that's the best thing too. Is D&D itself is it doesn't have to be this humongous commitment.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's something that you can get together with a few people once every blue moon, or once a week or twice a week or whatever your schedule allows it to be, and really get it into the game and immerse yourself into it. And that's I think what I would say to somebody who's looking to start or really get into D&D, is that it can be as much or as little as you want it to be.
When we started, I had no idea how to DM. No idea.
I was
I
nervous.
barely understood the game.
It was a lot of fun though.
It was a lot of fun, but I was nervous
This
just
is,
to sit.
this is for all the viewers. This is before Matt. Matt got brought in, the expert, and
The expert. Yes, I had played 2nd edition in middle school, so
Yes.
I was quite the expert.
in comparison,
Yes.
we were all very green.
us,
But,
yeah.
no, Michael ran a short campaign before campaign 1 started, and it was very very different, but it was good. And our characters, Baldor was awesome.
They were good. They were very good characters, but on that one, I was nervous just to play, even though these are like my closest friends in the entire world. Just to sit down and like actually role play with people is really, before you do it, it seems like a huge deal.
And
But it became so easy, so fast.
That's true.
Literally, it was just like after the first 2 minutes, it became supernatural.
And you don't have to do the whole get into the character thing too if you're totally not, my character walks up to this guy and asks him,
Right.
if he knows anything.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to necessarily do all the voices and get
Yeah.
into it that much, right?
In
But-
defense of that playstyle, I will say that I've been part of different games that are not as roleplay heavy, and I have to say the role playing I think adds a lot to the experience.
I agree.
Certainly.
I think it's fine. It's fun to play otherwise, but I just think that does add a lot.
It does, and keeping up with them doing their voices and the character development that they're doing, I think really pushes the story.
I think I've had a lot more trouble with keeping voices straight this game.
Well, here's the problem. We ask you who every friggin' person in the world is at that point.
Yeah.
It's hard to make different voices for everybody. And they all end up dying.
And you all don't stay in one place for more than
Right.
12 minutes.
It's true. It's true. It's a constant movement,
Influx of new information.
Ugh.
which is hard, and that makes it very difficult for you. And
Kayla agrees with you and sometimes took some time to get comfortable.
yeah, it's a weird
Learning
feeling at first. Really, even though I'm super close with them, it's different, but it really does almost immediately get better. You don't notice it. It's like now I'm like super.
I mean, if you're at a table with
comfortable.
friends and people you trust and you're just
Yeah.
there to have a good time and
The nerves go away like anything else. It's
Yeah.
Never thought I'd be on like a stream talking about stuff like this either. So
And that's the thing too. I mean, role playing in general, in this type of setting, I think it doesn't. It's only going to add, regardless of skill level, regardless of, what type of character you've created or what your goal is. I think that it just adds an element. Even if it's interaction with other players and NPCs. So.
yeah. Josh says the same thing. He says that role playing, even if it's inconsistent or from someone who's still learning, just makes the game more both to play and to watch, right? It's
I think
engaging.
in the 5th edition they have the system of ideals, bonds, and flaws.
Yeah.
And I don't think of it necessarily like that as much as I think of these are like the major tenets that my character holds to.
Right.
And if you just focus on 2 or 3 of those, that goes a long way into seeing how you see the world. If you're like, okay, I don't know anything about, because I don't tend to write a long I don't tend to think of it in that sense of this is what happened, but I know that family is important to my character. One of the early times we talked about it, what each person's faith was, or the god they believed in the game. I remember Baron said he followed a god that wasn't a god of the dwarves. And this was and I didn't know it would be troubling to my character until he said that.
Until he says it, yeah.
And I'm like, you won't be with them. And that's not, to me, that's not something that's going to be...
Yeah, the conversation. Well, what, you won't be with your people when
be
you
alone,
die.
right.
Baron is they're not my people.
yeah,
I think was
never been with them anyway.
yeah, I'm not with them
or
now.
for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
But it helps, I think, the spontaneity of role-playing when you have those ideas. Even though you don't think of them as flaws or divide them in that way, but these are the 2 or 3 major things that my character holds to.
And I think that was, when we did character creation, that was more or less what I tried to do. I gave everyone a questionnaire, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm like, what are some bonds you have? What are some things you're connected to? What are some things you're scared of?
Yeah.
That helped actually a lot.
That was my goal. I scoured the internet for different places to look to see what kind of questions people ask and which ones seem to make the most sense. And that's kind of where that
it
came
did
from.
help a lot, because otherwise I would have, like everything else, I'm gonna wing it. So I appreciate to have a little bit of guidance to where I want it to be.
Yeah. Kayla says that Bree loves to play music for people because of her backstory, even if she keeps rolling terribly
She's terrible.
every time, and she's fiercely loyal.
Those are my
Or just plays music at inappropriate times, right? Like when there's a bard already performing to walk
True.
up, stand
Very-
in front of him and start playing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to most people, and again, to Eric was the only one that was like, probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
The rest of us are just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Eric's, him being his
Well,
character.
Eric is a bard and doesn't play music at all. So.
Yeah.
No, true. Although I love the same thing where Michael's character was a bard at some point, his old character, but him being a storyteller bard
Storyteller bard.
as opposed to a singer or musician. I think that's different. Something nice. change of pace.
Yeah. Yeah.
I sang all the time.
You
You
did.
did,
Yeah,
and it
you
was,
sang.
and I'll tell you, everyone, it was amazing. All the
Gates
songs.
of
Yep.
Harmondor, my friend.
It brought me back to the days of playing Risk when
Mhm.
Michael would sing.
I never sing Risk, but I did anyway.
So that was big. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
really-
big into. I mean, not so much yet, anyway. In this, Eric tends to be the voice of reason for our party. I never thought of it that way, but that's
yeah.
yeah.
I would say
Maybe
yeah,
a little
because
more
we're-
grounded and a little more realistic. Than
Yeah,
Well, that is
because
something.
Josh says that Eric tends to be the voice of reason for our party.
Nice.
I would agree
That's
with
true,
that
too.
actually, because I'm an extreme, Buddy's an extreme. He would be somewhere,
I'm an
at
extreme.
least in the middle.
Keep it to yourself if you're gonna be over there.
It's true though. Yeah, I think it is very. I think he came up in the world in a different way that has made him very aware of what is going on around him at all times. And
Yeah, he's hyper social, right?
Yeah.
Hyper aware of social situations and how he's coming off to people and all of that. And he's a schmoozer, right?
Right.
It's very
Yeah.
in playing with his character.
Right. So
but he's not seeking anyone's approval either, which is
true. I do wonder how that's gonna play out. His story. So many stories we have to. I can't wait to get into.
Yeah. Every time I talk about it, I just want to play again.
We do. I know. We do. Literally, we know nothing about almost anyone's character.
It takes a while. I mean,
Oh, it
I mean,
does.
thinking back to the last campaign, I mean, it took us a while.
But that's what I love.
to really, I mean, Yusuf's background was like totally
Incredible.
super late. Super late.
Came out way late in
Yeah.
the campaign, so
But it's nice because it's always something we're looking forward to and grabbing,
Yeah.
try and get, and I appreciate that a lot.
speaking of campaign one, you know, some writing. There's gonna be some writing about campaign one coming out too, and we're gonna, you know,
Start releasing
eventually
that on the website.
be releasing
Yeah.
it. So if there's
Good
any
chapter.
interest out there in that, you know, we're gonna have some stuff to put up. So
Potentially, maybe bring those characters into a stream at some point. If the right situation presents itself as a one-off or something.
could be cool.
I don't think.
We've discussed that.
Yeah. I mean,
There are a lot of things open. A lot of things left open.
and Matt doesn't tell us anything, so it's hard to get a.
Not, I tell you a lot, but you gotta work for it, man. That's what the game is for.
So you're rolling D20 right now.
Oh, I have one. All right,
So what is? I mean, just a general question. What has surprised everyone about the way it's gone so far? 11 weeks in, almost 12 weeks in.
Surprised you spent an entire session trying to kill each other. That was-
But even you
Well-
have said that the way the campaign was set up, at some point that was going.
At some
to
point,
happen.
something's gonna come to a head some way.
But I think inter-party conflict is some of the best storytelling in the game. So I think it makes sense to set that up.
Yeah.
You know, I think if in a party where it's only cohesion all the time,
Mm,
it's boring. There's no drama in that.
True.
And it's unrealistic, right? It's,
Exactly.
So what has surprised us as a player, or
Yeah, just in general, like
Yeah.
what's going that hasn't gone the way you thought it would, or like,
I'm totally like, you know, it's set in the same world, but it's totally different. I mean,
totally different.
so I think that's, I was expecting it to be still very similar to campaign one.
The first campaign
setting.
was very much more medieval fantasy.
Right.
This is something different.
Yeah.
I'm trying, yeah.
And that's, to me, that was, I was not expecting that. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think that it was really cool to me. I was going into it saying, oh, you know, the world's going to be basically the same as campaign one. We might even go to the same places. And now we're on a totally different place.
mm.
Potentially, you know, in a totally different time setting. So I think that it's, you know, I think that's pretty cool and surprising in general
Yeah.
that happened.
Josh says he's surprised a character died at level 1.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's,
Matt's fault again.
I
Matt's fault again.
I set it
Hashtag
up.
Matt killed Mick.
I did not decide to throw a halfling onto a roof. I did not decide to burn down a building. I didn't decide any of this.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it was very stark, right? I mean,
Although,
it's
to be
surprising because you know you don't expect that to
True.
happen.
But to be fair, Matt, you knew we were going to do something stupid. We
Well,
always
that's true.
do
We
something
always do
stupid.
something.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
I looked at that in a very different way. I looked at that as like, for me, that fight there was like, it was kind of a litmus test on like, how does your character see the world?
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
Body is no reservations about going in there, taking the initiative, taking the surprise,
Yeah.
the shock factor. I can take out
She's
2 or
a
3
warrior.
of these people. I
Yeah.
can maim somebody. They'll run. Most likely they'll break
Yeah.
in the face of what I am. And just kind of playing with that and like, I might die. But because Badi is not, to her, she might have died 100 times over.
Yeah.
Right.
She's not, I mean, her life is obviously, I think our characters' lives are precious to themselves, to them. Like, they care about, and that's been a big thing with Yusuf too. Like, I cared a lot about, like, I was very aware that this is a crazy thing to do, and this is something that I might kill me. But at the same level, you know, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm gonna take baby steps here and not engage. I don't know. You know, you never know going into that kind of thing. What, like, we're not gonna assume that anything is a CR that's appropriate to. What does that even mean? Like, it's not a leveled world. We're not gonna fight harder things at lower level. We're gonna find easier things, and then slowly
Eventually.
They're just
and gently guide. Like,
They're there. They're in the world, and you encounter them. If you
There
do,
they
you
are.
do, and you don't, you don't.
And that's definitely how the world is set up.
Right.
It's not set up, ooh, they're level 1, so they're going to go to a level 1 area. No, they're in the world. And
Right.
if you say, oh, I'm going to punch this dragon in the head, well, you're probably going to be dead at level 1. Kayla said she thinks that you guys overestimated your strength coming off the last campaign. That being used to being able to be so high leveled and kind of jump into something and be able to attack it and kill it.
Oh, absolutely.
Coming off of that mentality to go back to level 1.
That's
of course we can take this.
That's definitely true. And that's a great point by K. Santillo.
K, I think it's K.
What is it?
Santillo?
Yeah. So
819.
yeah. So great.
Infinity 19.
great-
Maybe it's Infinity.
Great point. For me especially because Gadrin was like, Gadrin could do anything.
Way too
Well, that's because Garrett is an unofficial character class.
Yes, but okay, yeah. So I played a mystic in campaign 1, which was really cool because it's not an official character, and I think that
there's a reason why.
yeah.
Isn't it cool, man?
There's a reason why.
To me, the appeal of
I
playing
would-
something that didn't exactly exist was really cool.
Yeah,
No,
it's-
yeah.
Flavor-wise, story-wise, it was very cool. As a DM, I would suggest being cautious about using Unearthed Arcana material in your persistent campaigns.
Yeah, Gadrin was a little unbalanced.
Review the numbers, if you will.
No, he was unbalanced definitely at first.
I'm
There
level
was
3.
You know, the
I can
skew-
resurrect someone.
1v1, I don't know. I mean, you could have gone out of the higher levels, I feel like.
Yes, but that's because mystics
Kind of
they
dropped
fall
off
off.
a little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
After the mid levels, they start to fall off and become a lot less
We had a
powerful.
lot of that high-level PvP going on, too, which is...
Yes.
We have some recording of that, actually. At least that's the point.
Josh said he was surprised about the relationship between Badi and Bree, which kind of started off in the pre-session a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I mean,
I would assume.
Bree cannot speak on behalf of this, but
Well, initially, the interaction between Buddy and Bree was not positive. It was very at each other.
At the very beginning.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
see her with a book open, like she's reading it?
I
You're
can
not even looking at the page.
I can say from Zephahim's perspective, Zephahim feels, I think, that Bree looks to Badi as like a parental figure that she's missing, or I don't know. I have no idea. Zephahim has no idea about Bree's backstory, and the person, I have no idea about Bree's backstory. So this is pure speculation, but I think that Bree is looking to Badi as like a maternal or even like a matronly type of figure that she's become attached to and feels like unsafe without. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yay or nay?
Kind of.
Kind of.
Okay.
I don't read it as parental, though.
Yeah, and maybe not. I mean, I don't know, but that's what I think Zephahim would think of it.
I think that's why Baron has I don't know, is trying to make some type of connection with Badi, because from my perspective of how I want to play it, I think is Bree is following Badi, and she sees how close they are, or Baron sees how close they are and wants that, and eventually is part of why I would have broken and told, the story.
Yeah.
Although not the whole truth, but some of the truth.
I still don't know the whole truth. Me as a person, so
That's part of the.
or any of it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth.
That's part of the best.
Can't
you know.
handle the truth.
I don't. Yeah.
That's great though, because it's like we hang out all the time, and it's great that we still let it play out organically in the game, and I think that's a lot of the fun and appeal of it.
Absolutely. Otherwise, it'd be.
That's the same reason that I always try to do something to character backgrounds that you guys aren't aware of, and I love that you guys give me at least a little bit of the freedom to be able to do that. To kind of surprise you with your own backstory, because it's fun to learn about other characters too, but it's also fun to learn about your character, like things that are affecting them, unseen things or things from the past that are affecting them that they don't know.
You told me no the other day when I asked you to do something about my character, and you said no.
I did. You did. That's why there was a reason that I wanted to very specifically set stuff up.
But it's a good thing because I will
play.
change things every 2 seconds.
You definitely would.
So
that's why character creation was cool. We set stuff up. This is what is good. And then from there, I built upon other things. And now I'm not doing that again because it took a lot of work. So that is what it is. And you guys are great.
And it's telling that actually my biggest regret is a fight we didn't take. Going back.
A fight you didn't
Which
take?
one is that?
I wanted that maggot man. I wanted this.
Yeah.
See, and a part of Matt's world that I love is so when we move on, I can't wait to go back and see. I'm sure we'll try and go back. At least I want to. I'd love to. I don't know if we will, but I'm hoping we do.
I don't know. We'll see.
Because we'll just. I'll say yes. We're gonna go back, and then throughout the sessions, it'll just never come.
I wanted that fight too. I wanted that fight real bad.
Yeah.
As a player, I wanted that fight.
Part of my
as a character, it was tough. It was a tough call.
Part of my problem with combat in Dungeons and Dragons in general is the fact that it is not driven enough by narrative and story, and is too driven by mechanics. And I try to bring talking and role playing into. I don't like how it's narrative, story, and then initiative order starts, and then it's just numbers.
Right. Yeah.
I don't like that at all, and I think it really ruins a lot of good. So I think what was done well last episode in general was having those breaks either between combat or having those moments where it was like you were able to see the story through. It's very rules heavy, very numbers heavy, but it's still story heavy, which I like a lot.
And it's also me letting the rules get broken a little bit to do that, right? If a round is supposed to be 6 seconds and you guys are having 12 seconds of dialogue in the middle of 2 turns, right? Like that, it is definitely a little bit of, as a DM, letting go and just letting that happen.
Yeah.
But then having initiative order still be that kind of logical sequencing.
I think the initiative order is important because it retains that sense of fairness and order.
Yeah.
I don't think the bullet time thing is important because I feel like that makes it so like it's a super slow motion thing, and it's like. Yeah, in the real world, that's how fights are fast. But
we could just do the anime thing, and you punch, and 2 fists lock, and you have like a 30-second dialogue.
Keep it to one line. That's just sort of keep it to like.
No, I like that. I like that you've
somewhere between.
Again, you've let us break the rules, but not make it crazy.
But
we're
still,
spending 20 minutes talking. It's
very recognizably Dungeons and Dragons. With pretty strict adherence to 5e rules, right?
Of course.
And in my opinion,
it's not terribly loosey-goosey.
No. I'm saying just more of like Michael said, it's more of, we can add
things happen,
that one line of, something.
I like that there's a structure and a physics to the world in a certain way,
Yeah.
Speaking about the physics of the world, someone else had mentioned, and I want to talk about this a little bit too, that they're surprised we're not at the monastery yet. Because we've been talking about the monastery for a long time.
Taking forever.
And it should. Because all are walking.
But it was like a month away, right? I mean, it was pretty far.
It was far, yeah.
It's a while away.
I got a scary concept for everyone. It's gonna take a long time to get everywhere for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I
like that though.
You don't have a lot of fast travel.
I love that.
But that's
what
that's
I want.
right.
I want that.
The fast travel thing. Like we acquired fast travel late in the first campaign with the wizards being in the party, and
You got some magic circles,
Gadrin kind of had
but you
some
didn't.
stuff.
You couldn't really get to some areas, so you
Yeah.
could. Well, what's the quickest way to get there?
Yeah.
Right, I think we're gonna really have to figure things out.
But
as
I
we
love
go in
that.
this campaign.
I think fast travel really makes things so much easier.
Yeah, it does, and it should at a certain point. I think it's
I
fine
agree.
that wizards at a certain level they get those spells,
Right.
or they have that.
And I'm
ability.
fine with it. But,
Right.
when you have, like we had, 3 different people who could do some type of fast travel move, we could be anywhere we wanted, for the most part,
Sure.
not everywhere, but we could be somewhere close to where we needed to be in a split second, and it really, I think...
And then
took-
get out of there a split second later.
Which also...
Like if you transport into the middle of a bunch of demons and they come at you and the battle's going well and then you get out really quick, right? Like that happens.
Yeah,
But that's what the late game should be in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
sense for that to
Yeah.
be. You can do an ear strike
Mhm.
at level 14. Level 4, you not so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't go in there and be like, okay, we put the magic circle on the fucking carpet and roll it out, and then, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not a thing where you can do it. I'm loving not playing magic user.
And
I'm done with spells, man.
And I think
Okay.
that the actual travel time being pretty strictly adhered to, like we're walking, so it's going to be walking speed, and I think that's good. It's going to be developing the characters. It's going to develop the story. It's going to actually take in-game time to get there, and it has to pass naturally. It can't pass unnaturally. All right, we're there. Like if you were to just say, oh well, we would as players we would be upset. I think.
And later in the game, if it's a place you've traveled to once, twice, a couple times before,
Right. And it's a
like,
short
are we gonna
distance
really
away.
go like minute by minute? No, of course not. But in the beginning, you've
Yeah, you
never
have to.
gone this road, you've never gone this direction.
Well, I mean, a great part of the game is exploration. And to bring exploration into the forefront,
yes,
you don't know what's beyond the next hill.
and it's
That's kind of a,
just terribly exciting in this kind of fantasy world, right?
Yeah, and who's to say we're not going to turn around and go somewhere else, because of a conversation or something?
Well, it is more difficult as a DM who is homebrewing content to do a real sandbox world.
Well, that's what
like-
actually I wanted to ask you about that. How do you go about some insight for other people? How you go about dealing with us being so spontaneous?
You get really comfortable coming up with bullshit off the top of your head.
'Cause we do that a lot. We
Yeah.
change our minds. We say we're going to do one thing, and then 2 seconds later we're doing something completely different.
100%. 150%.
It's interesting.
So the number one thing I do is I have so either you have to be really malleable, which I am in a lot of ways with my mind and changing things, but also I have a rather strong idea of what this world looks like, right? So if I think you're going left, but instead you go right, well, I've already been thinking about what's to the right, The land you're on, I've been thinking about since the last campaign. Even though you were not really near it there, you never got there. I did not think you would ever get there, but I was thinking about what's beyond, and then what's beyond that, and then what's beyond that. So yeah, but it's different. One thing Mick is pointing out here on Twitch is that without a wizard this time, things are just going to be really different traveling wise. It's also a little easier to prep when you can't say, I'm going to magically transport. The worst part is, right, teleportation in Dungeons & Dragons, if you roll badly, you don't end up where you're going. So then you're somewhere else near there, right? So there was one point in the last campaign where you were
That's right. Kayla's character messed up.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's right.
Totally messed up.
It was pretty
Was
bad.
trying to get you guys to one city. She rolled badly. You guys did not get there. So what I do in that instance, which isn't a game mechanic, but it's something that I've thrown in, is, okay, roll a d12, and like a clock, that's the direction from where you were trying to go that you actually ended up.
Okay.
Luckily, since you were going to a port city, half of those numbers would have landed you in the ocean. So you did not end up in the ocean, but you did end up in the middle of a Viking encampment.
It was
chaos
great.
ensued.
It was great
chaos
that
ensued,
happened.
and it had absolute ramifications on the story fairly soon after there too.
Well, that's what was the pillar for our characters' relationship in that. her messing that up.
Yeah.
And my character also being obviously this is whatever, but we did this before, but that's why I hated her character so much. Seriously, that was a reason.
Well,
I
you were a wizard too, so it made
I
sense.
didn't respect her mistake.
Yeah, and it affected your entire party's connection to this part of the world, where one of the player characters was from, right? Like, it was extremely consequential and all based off of a bad roll, and then two rolls, right? Like a roll for teleportation, and then another roll to see.
The real issue was that it was a deception.
Well, it was also a deception because she pretended like she was doing a magic circle.
Yes, that was the best part.
But Keelan, right? And that's also part of the leveling up in gameplay, right? She's like, oh, but I know I can teleport without this. So she's pretending to do a magic circle while actually casting teleport. That did not go well. It was like layers on layers. It was.
I wish we had recorded
a lot of things,
a lot
right?
of that.
I mean,
our
we
interactions between my character and her character at that time.
A lot of stuff in that first campaign was. I mean, that's why we wanted to start recording now, right? Is because it was so good. Everything that happened in the Underdark, right? Which we don't do a lot of dungeon crawls in our campaigns, but I mean
we
that's
actually don't.
We definitely
really don't.
I think the quality of this community has been higher in general. Though,
Oh, 100%. You guys are all on point with the voices sticking to where the characters would go. It's at a really high level in my opinion, especially compared to last time.
I think it's the characters are really cool. I love Badi has a very specific voice, and I don't just mean that like the timbre of your voice, but like what she says, her idea of how she speaks, the mannerisms.
Yeah.
I think Zephahim is the same way too, right? Very like cocksure, very like certain phrases that you use that are always consistent. Bairn is very almost like passive, right, in what he talks about, and it's like and it's his interactions then with other characters are affected by that passivity, and
I'm really excited to see how the development, the party interactions now after what's happened.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm
This
so
episode.
excited. I'm
And
so
where,
excited.
Where are we gonna go from here?
Excited.
To tune in.
Yeah.
Monday,
Monday.
M-O-N Monday day.
Yeah, I'm excited. So I don't know.
That's I think that's gonna be really fun to watch play out.
So some things that surprised me, I'll say this, that you guys actually remembered what the days of the weeks were called in the last campaign, and then noticed that they changed this one.
Yeah.
That was one of the first things you said.
I didn't. That's funny.
I just learned the goddamn days of the week, and you changed them.
Yeah. Yeah, because I used to try to memorize them, and then on your binder, because my character would know the names.
Yeah,
of the days, 'cause
absolutely.
they live in the world.
The characters would also know the names of the months, which are
Right.
quite a bit different.
So
They'd have a different calendar, right? Different part of the world, although it's still a 7-day calendar. And the days of the number of days in the year are the same, but the breakdown of what those are.
So is your approach more top down, where you build from the bigger stuff and go down, or you build from the bottom up and kind of start with the systems on the floor, and then like go, okay, what does that mean for the what direction do you build in when you're building a world?
It's piecemeal a little bit, right? Like I said, the first thing I thought of when I was really coming up with this campaign that really made something stick was literally the speech that started the first episode.
Yeah.
Right? Of like grandfather, the Oxman, speaking to, and in that mind, I didn't know it was an Oxman. I just knew it was some sort of tribal elder speaking to a child that in my mind was one of the PCs as a child, because we were still playing the last campaign. I was okay, well, whoever is the closest to being a tribal person will be the one sitting there. Luckily we had a barbarian.
And it's funny because to me that first scene wasn't a flashback. It was that was the time period it started, and then we jumped 55 years or 50.
That's how I felt.
49,
That was the
49
beginning
years.
of it. I mean, that was
Like in my mind,
literally-
everyone has a flashback to Buddy because that wasn't that was just her life, and then it jumped to her 40 something years later.
Just you
And then-
live by Shakira.
Right.
I would literally just be driving in the car, like saying that speech over and over
Right.
to like help me think of ideas.
Right.
Um,
And I know you had the cosmology figured out pretty early on. In the,
so that's and as far as so that's kind of bottom up, right? Is as specific as you could possibly be, like a speech.
yeah.
Build a world from it, but also I have a good idea of what the cosmology is, of how the gods interact. I mean, the months last time were like the days of heaven, the days of heaven's leaving, the days of hell's approach, the days of hell, right? It's all based on that. And I think because it's a fantasy world where religion is quite important, right? Like there are definitely arcane, specific fantasy world and D&D campaign settings out there. This one is very god heavy, god centric. Obviously, we talk about in this campaign Sazish all the time because he is like the dominant god for the most part around here, unless you're with the Oxmen, and then it's Prakirtikrut, and like the religion literally shapes the world, and then you know from the last campaign that in the past there was some stuff about giants and dragons that also helped shape the world, and
But even
Yeah.
that, even like the talk about gods has shifted a lot from the first. Like in the first campaign, it was
Yeah.
different.
it was different
deal.
gods that
Right.
were the big kahunas. In this world, I mean, the very shape of the heavens is structured entirely differently, right? So like the way they thought of it before, which we can put online. We can put the supplemental stuff online too for people that want it.
I'd love to.
But the idea that it was kind of like that wheel, very much like the D&D 5e cosmology system looks, with the material plane in the middle, although slightly different. Obviously, the heavens and hells have different names. There are different. It was different enough to be important to see, but now entirely different, right? Now it's almost. The understanding of it is almost like a children's story, right? Where before it was like this learned thing. Now it's almost like an oral history of like, well, this is the heaven, and there are these other outer realms like that, and they're in conflict. But it's almost simpler and easier to understand. It's less academic looking, or what I would imagine a fantasy academia to look like. It's less learned and more like of the people.
I like that.
Yeah.
No butt sheet.
Bachit, who is one of the main gods, has
Come up.
who is hypothetically one of the Junfa, right? The gods that are almost like warlord gods and pretenders to Sazish's throne. If you're a Sazish worshiper, that's how you conceptualize it, right? Hasn't come up at all. Kind of like Sazish didn't come up at all last campaign.
Yeah.
All other gods came up at some point, at least mentioned, or a worshiper was seen. There was no Sazish worshiper, and now you're in a part of the world that's the majority, the driving force, the driving philosophy.
Another aspect that I think is really interesting is what is your process or inspiration for magical items in the world? That seems to come up a lot, revolve around.
Usually I'm reading books and I get an idea and I say that's cool, and then I make a note and then I go back to it later. But not a book like literally it'll just be an item in the book. Like the Bard's nose rag was like a throwaway joke line when I was reading James Joyce's Ulysses over the summer, right? Like, so it was like a throw, and I was like, ooh, the Bard's nose rag. That's a cool D&D item. What kind of things could it do? Yeah. So now you have this green, gross looking, probably with embroidery, but also probably snot on it. But if you rub it on a blade, it magically sharpens that blade. It becomes a +1 weapon, right? the nickel shaving bowl is the same. It was
He's
also
waiting for the reveal.
it was
It's not
also
coming. It's not coming.
It was
I was
also
hoping. I was
a
hoping.
throwaway line from that same book.
So you go to go read Ulysses and you'll be fine.
It doesn't tell you. No, it's literally a guy shaves with a dented nickel shaving bowl at the beginning, and
I'm never gonna know what that bowl
one of the
is.
professors at U
Ever.
Chicago, he studied a lot of like object theory, like let's look at these objects in literature, right? Like literally the things, and that just because I've looked at that into that a little bit, it sticks in my mind. So like when I'm reading and there are these objects that come up, I'm like, well, I think the objects are important, and I think it's emphasized to the nth degree in fantasy, where those objects are literally magical items that you're conscious about using all the time. Like, I'm going to use this literal hanky every day because it's a magic hanky, right? Like, it's funny. It's
D&D.
It's
I love
D&D, it's funny, it's fun, it's consequential, right? Having a +1 weapon is a consequential thing at low levels.
Oh yeah. Yep, I had to pay a hefty price.
Half your face
Yep.
and much of the skin on your back. Yep. 4
But
pounds.
hey, when you're presented a challenge, go with your gut.
Yeah, how was that? How are you still feeling about that decision to give up half your face?
I think Zephahim looks as, he needed to prove himself to the party. I think that was one of his driving forces was I need to seem like even maybe more giant or more badass than I actually am, because he has an opportunity to be who he wants to be with these people. And I think to look into the face of a devil and say, no, like you don't scare me, like I don't care.
Yeah.
And that also goes into some of his, backstory and stuff that we are not going to talk about here, but
yeah.
it works.
Not
I think
not on this special
no,
review.
but I think it ended up working, and I think he's probably internalizing, like, did I make the right decision? Was it worth it? But I think that, like I said, he needed to feel like a big shot in that moment, and he did, I think.
Yeah.
I think he was probably scared shitless, but also didn't really care about the consequences because he knew that he had already made up his mind.
Yeah, let's talk about that whole thing a little bit, because I'm interested. I'm not going to give you answers, right? But what do we think about the Kaifen? These tall bell towers that are in the center of one of the major cities. The fact that this door opened and there was this
Well, I think it's super
creature
cool.
staring you in the face.
I think it's super cool that obviously you brought the Kaifen back from Campaign 1. Our understanding of the Kaifen from Campaign 1 is totally different than what it is now in this campaign.
Well, it's literally a different thing than it was in the
I know,
campaign.
but well, the word is the same. That's the thing, right? The wording of it is the same,
And
but
physically
but
it's
different.
physically
Different.
this really tall bell tower.
That was the toxin. That wasn't the Kaifen. The Kaifen was the.
well, that's what they called it, though. They called it the toxin.
But the Kaifen was the different thing.
You want me to tell you a real secret? I've just been using the wrong word because I forgot.
No. That's bullshit. I don't believe that at all.
I think it's
Um,
I thought you were playing up to like this idea of protection of like this is a
Can I tell you?
Kayla is visibly upset by this.
Can I
No.
tell you what I think it is?
Yep. Okay. So I gave something away because
I think
I just been using the wrong word.
Well,
Yep.
I think it works better, though. I mean,
That's fine.
I
Yeah,
like
I'm
it.
into
People
it.
would kill you
I think it's better.
Oh.
Anyway,
okay.
because
in your
anyway, the bell tower in Campaign 1, which was called the
toxin.
toxin or whatever,
Which is a signal bell. It's
was
literally just
was
a
only
word
in
in
one.
English,
It was only in one place, and now we've encountered multiple
Yeah.
of them.
no. It was in the only tiefling.
Well, okay, the
Settled
only
city
tiefling
that we-
community that we
that we
saw,
encountered.
which is true.
Correct.
But we didn't know the origin of it or where it came from.
So now I have to- So now when we do campaign 1 content, we gotta retro.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, no. That is entirely human error.
Wow. I thought that was in my head that was a shifting. That was a time. That was like this thing that this word that meant something in the past or in the future now has a different meaning.
Maybe we do that. Yeah, I like that. We can
I don't know. Like in my head, I was like, okay.
Because the Kaifen was kaputs, right, at the end of the first.
But in my head, like the toxin
Yeah.
was maybe served a different role in that city. Well, I guess
It did. I mean, it was functioning
that's some interesting questions. Knowing
differently,
that.
right?
Well, it wasn't. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't functioning because
Maybe it wasn't functioning.
even
at
looking
all.
back now, I'm thinking about it and saying, this is a testament to. Well, I don't want to get too into it, but Sazish. Then why is this infested with demons? You know, like that. There's a lot of in my head. The Kaifen was this thing that was a protective. I don't know. That's just I just didn't think about it that way.
It worked. I mean, right? Because you know from this campaign that the Kaifen is supposed to protect you in some way.
It's the only thing we know about it. Yeah, pretty much.
The Kaifen, the last season, it was a barrier gate, right?
Well,
But
the way I think of it is like the demons and the devils. You know how there's the chaos and the order of basically the opposing sides.
I shouldn't have told you that. That would have been cool if I
But
would have played.
It
that.
always seemed cooler when
Yeah.
you were making us think that something was like, I don't know. It's like always we ascribe more. It's just
And I don't
more
know,
to the word Kaifen than
I
to
don't-
the word toxin.
no, well, not even that, but like those. I think in my mind, those meanings could have changed
Yeah.
over time. You know, like
Yeah, we can go with that.
The etymology
did.
of it.
They changed over time.
Eric knows more about a lot more about this stuff than I do, but I think that just the interaction from those demons in campaign 1, you know, they were kind of protecting it, but they also never went into it either. So I think that they were afraid of it.
Until you guys went in and
Yeah.
they broke through the wall to try to kill you.
Right.
the first time you said Kaifen on stream in this campaign, that was a major. Oh, I was like, oh shit, that's so different than
Huh.
because I was like, that's you know.
Soiled it.
Let's just not play anymore.
No,
Ugh.
but as far as we think of them, I have an idea of what they are. Like, I think I kind of, you know, in my own.
Do you
head.
want to share? Or?
I do.
Well-
My idea is that it's a trap.
Okay.
It's a seal,
It's a
not a protection for the people around it. It's not protecting them from outside things. It is protecting them from
What's
the
inside?
inside.
What's inside?
Yes.
So you think
It is.
it's some sort of
Gate.
prison for
A seal,
something inside, and then you
That's kind
got thrown inside at some point.
Correct.
It's interesting.
Because I don't think it's a coincidence that, you know, whatever's in there is powerful enough to do whatever it did, but you can never see it outside. You know, I don't know. I really just don't see it.
That's
So-
that's a
yeah.
good. Now that I think about it, right? I mean,
I just don't see it.
and it kind of lends itself to what, you know, the 6 and 6, right? So
Six
6 and 6
Six
descended
and 6 descended in
service to Sazish, right? So pretty
I'm
good.
just saying.
It's a pretty
I
good
don't
theory.
know if we should continue with that, but I really that's how
It's a good theory.
that's what my I'm thinking. Bjorn obviously has no fucking clue because he doesn't give a shit.
I don't think that's the 12. I think that's.
No, I don't. It doesn't necessarily have to be them. I just think
I
it's
think-
minions of
It could be.
12 or
I just think it's in my head, they are devils that are shape the character of the town around them, and the shape of the Aga is
yeah.
based on their
Sure.
will, you know, in some way. But I don't necessarily think they're the 12. I think that's a little bit.
I don't think it's 12, but it could be
Oh,
whoever
wow.
the 12 came to defeat.
I don't think it's important. I mean, I think that
I'm just saying,
because people in
spitballing
these
here.
little
just
towns, these small towns have, you know, kind of.
Spitballing.
I think I have a little bit of insight that I would not like to share.
Don't- yeah,
Directly-
no, we just-
I think it directly coincides with some of the things
We're
that
just throwing
Zephaniah
some-
might know.
I
Those
think
are small
several
things.
characters might have several pieces
Yeah.
of
But you
information
don't-
that's
but you
split
don't
up.
even believe in it. Yeah, there's a different sect.
Well, I think that Badi knows very little about what Zephaniah actually believes or what he actually.
This is not Buddy speaking. This is
No, you're right though.
Speaking.
I think you're right. You know, there are basically two sects of Sazish worship, and Zephaniah is in the very small minority, and is less apt to talk about that with people, especially other tieflings, because he's an outcast even amongst them, because they there is a vast majority of tieflings who are of that majority.
Does Inda know if you're?
I think we should probably stop.
Yeah.
We're giving a lot away.
What?
I'm just saying there's a lot coming out, and it's
Well,
going to continue to come
that was
out.
something we talked. The Sat Sazish versus the
Sal-
Saral
yeah,
Sazish.
Saral and Sal-
Yeah,
Sazish,
we did, but
I actually don't know what Inda believes. I haven't seen him pray at all.
once.
So
Actually, we haven't. You're right. Not even
no,
once.
so I don't know.
Even slightly.
But I mean, I don't think you guys have seen Zephaniah pray. He always does it in private. So I don't think you've seen.
You've
it.
asked for help.
Sure. And
What?
and if you notice, right, he's always asking Sazish for help. He's not asking anyone else. So
Oh, you're right.
you know, it's that
Never
direct.
seen you
It's
pray,
that.
but-
It's that direct. You know, he feels that he is some sort of a champion of Sazish in his
So
own right.
going into all these towns and seeing that these people bow and scrape before the Aga, or
He
whatever the
he
Aga,
doesn't understand it. Right.
it's but like
Is he more indifferent, or is it more of something that would make him upset?
No, I think he's.
Or is
I
this
think,
too much?
I think he's upset. I think he's upset because I think he feels like he and anybody else who sees things the way he does knows that they're right. It's almost like, you know, it's like you know, people who think something ridiculous, right? And then you try and tell them like, no, this is obvious, and they don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe it. So
Yeah.
you know, I think that it's kind of like that, where, you know, that it's obviously open to interpretation because these devils clearly, you know, existed in some way or exist still, you know. But Zephian definitely believes that Sazish is the one true God, and that's kind of how that goes. But
so it feels like a lot of false idols then are being.
yeah, and I think, you know, him and Badi have had some interaction with that a little bit, but probably more to come in that department later, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you haven't met anyone else that feels that way.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everyone, it seems, right, that the vast majority are these Sat Sazish, these people that worship through a devil.
Right.
They worship
You know,
Sazish.
and I think they all see that in the Aga, you know, they all see that they're being, you know, kind of led in a
They
certain
don't
way.
know
They don't
what
know
connection the
necessarily.
Aga might have to a certain devil.
Right, correct.
That's something that's-
Although they've shown some stuff in the middle of the streets
That's
while
right.
talking to you guys in
That's
some
sort of
towns,
comforting,
right?
Right.
That
But that also doesn't seem like they have a lot of control over maybe when that happens. Speaking
That
from somebody
might be
who's
true.
raging to another, like I
I
just
mean,
feel
you've
like
seen
if they-
one Aga that has maggots crawling in and out of his skin all the time and doesn't seem terribly
Disgusting.
reticent to let someone in the house to talk, you know? So,
Disgusting.
some Aga have been easier to get to than others. Some sit out on a platform outside the Kaifen all day long, it seems, you know? So,
I think that's a lot of thing too. Is like that to Badi, at least that's the concept that there's no interaction. Like there are different tribes of clans of Brickit, but the fact that there's no the tieflings keep themselves to this point where they don't even trade between each other.
not between each other, yeah, not
Is
even town to town.
bizarre.
Too much. There are traders that go back and forth.
But I'm saying like that whole thing
Right.
about like if one town has some commodity and the other town has another commodity, and you wouldn't naturally just trade between. Like the idea that there's nothing set up for that. The idea that it's so self-contained. You know, all these things strike Buddy as absurd.
And I
There's
think
no-
the players too, or I think like us too, it should, right?
Right.
Like as,
Well, I like the non-people don't understand whatever's going on in that society, but like the fact like you don't have a wall around the city, or your wall has an open gate, or you don't have any guards posted, you don't have any sentries. You know, I mean, it's like that kind of thing would be.
there's no guard.
Now we're
The-
leaving that part of the world, though, so it's been interesting to see.
The
what
Goro
changes.
Zoom are
These are
the
all questions that I hope will be answered soon.
yeah. So
Huh.
are we
I
are
hope
we
so.
feeling good about?
think so.
Do we feel very special?
I feel very
I
special.
feel good. I
So-
feel like it's a good
so-
first
so-
episode.
I think I think this week's episode is going to be really great.
Oh, I'm so
Yeah.
fucking excited.
Let's really build up the hype, so
Yeah.
we can
I know.
fall short of it.
Yeah.
No,
so
seriously.
watch us fall short of the hype, where the DM can't even remember what the hell he's supposed to call the bell towers.
That's fine, because they can just go back to last week's episode and watch how good that one was.
That's it.
So
Watch it twice.
On repeat.
Watch episode 11 twice, and then
Then look for things in the context of what's going on.
follow us on everything.
Yeah.
Go to the website.
Yep.
yeah, Inroads
Subscribe on YouTube.
InroadsProductions.com.
Follow us and like
Inroads
us on
Productions
Twitter.
on YouTube. Inroads Productions on Twitter. Inroads Productions on Facebook.
It's everywhere. Facebook.
Yeah, we try to let people know when we're going to be on doing things. Sometimes you only get, hey, we're on right now.
Yeah.
Twitter things like I just did. So if you want to know and join us,
More to come.
follow us. We got a lot more coming up. Thank you all for interacting, chatting, talking. This is nice doing this too, because we can chat with people this way, as opposed to when we're playing the game, right?
Right,
yeah, we
We're-
can't. Yeah.
We really can't.
Answer questions from our other party members.
Yeah. It's odd. It's very strange.
Who are not necessarily in the room, but some
Jen,
are.
next time we're going to get some questions from you too, right?
So wait, Josh is going to be a
Burning
special
questions.
guest character then?
Let's
Yeah.
try to come up
Big
with
reveal.
some-
Yeah, we're going to have a special guest character happening. You heard it here first on Special Review.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Later.